All right, so I decided to take a big adventure with my 2 teenage kids and 1-year-old puppy. I thought maybe we could get on the open road, do the classic American RV trip. So after I did a little digging around, I decided to go with Cruise America. I did some research, looked around at different options, and found a Cruise America location close by my house. And I pulled the trigger. Here I am, picking it up. We'll see how it goes. I'm not too worried about driving it around. I've done these. I've driven these rigs a few times, and they take a little getting used to. But I think I've got it all figured out on that front. But probably a bigger concern is having 2 teenagers and a puppy and myself in a little bit of a confined space. So for a few days, we'll see how that goes. I thought I'd document a little bit of the journey, give you guys a sense of some of the positives and some of the challenges you might have doing something like this. But I'm pretty excited. The kids are pretty excited. Maybe my son a little bit more than my daughter, but we'll see how it goes. And I'll try and give you guys a little inside look at what this one's like. The research and process in terms of how I ultimately picked Cruise America was relatively extensive. I have experience with RV shares, meaning with sort of the Airbnb of RVs. There's a variety of websites out there where you can rent, in essence, another person's individual RV. There are upsides to doing that. I think there's certainly folks out there that would probably go that route. But I also think, especially for newer folks, first timers with RVs, I think going with someone like Cruise America, which seems to be kind of the leader in that space of a company that rents out, a fleet of RVs, more in line with like car rental, like an Avis or Hertz. I think for newer folks, the Cruise America option is a little bit of a better choice. There's some assurance in having a company, and you have an 800 number you can call. There's a staff there that's ready to help you if you have any kind of issues while you're on your trip. I did some price shopping as well. There's comparable rates for some of those. There's individual share sites versus a Cruise America. It really depends on what you're looking for within a unit itself. But I think the price, Cruise America seemed a little bit better when you get into all the fees and sort of all in. It's just a lot more variability in the individual share situations. At least that's what I found in my research. But I also I decided to go with Cruise America also because there's a location really nearby my house, and so it was quite convenient to go pick it up. The share situations, I think each individual unit you might rent is a different owner and a different pickup situation, and felt a little bit challenging to know what you're in for. The booking process itself is pretty straightforward. I went onto their website, cruiseamerica.com. You can just put in your pickup location, or look for a pickup location in the drop down that they have. Put in your dates, very much like renting a hotel room or a rental car. There's a promo they're running right now, which is another reason why I ultimately picked Cruise America. They're running a promo for free unlimited mileage, which actually is kind of a big deal when it comes to cost considerations, because often you'll be charged a per mile rate, and if you're going any distance, those mileage fees can actually add up. So they're running a promo. I think it's over this summer. You punch that promo code in, you pick your dates, you add the number of passengers, and then you submit that. It will come back at you depending on your location that you're picking up from. It looks like it has different units that are available for the dates that you might pick. And I even think there's a little bit of variability in the rates per which week you might be booking, or how many days, or which days, and which unit obviously would change the fees. All of the units seemed pretty close in cost per day. Yeah, the unit I decided to go with is the 21 foot. They have 4 units. They have a ultra compact unit, a compact unit, which are 19 and 21 feet roughly each. And then they have a 25-foot sort of standard size, and I think it's a 30-foot large RV. I think the smaller unit in my situation looks like it probably would be the best. The middle and larger units aren't necessarily more expensive. I noticed that the larger doesn't necessarily mean more expensive. But you pick your unit, and then you will pick, there's a couple of options you can add on. You can add on a personal kit, and a kitchen kit. And then I think there's a zero damage plan they offer, which it works a little bit like insurance, but I think they explicitly say it's not insurance, but it does cover you in case there's any damage to the vehicle. I think it's up $3,000 per occurrence. I opted into the zero damage plan. I picked one personal kit and one kitchen kit. I think the kitchen kit is about $125 for the overall time you have the unit, and $75 for the personal kit. Personal kit comes with towels, a sheet for the bed, a comforter, and a pillow, washcloths, and even a kitchen towel. The kitchen kit comes with everything you could need. It comes with spoons, cookware, dishes, bowls, cups, things like that, knives, pretty much everything you need to cook in the unit. So once you've picked all those options that you want, you go to the checkout screen, and then it adds up everything for you, and you can kind of see what kind of damage you're in for. It's a pretty straightforward booking process. I didn't really have any hiccups with doing it. Once you've submitted it, your reservation is really done. So pretty smooth process on the booking. Okay, now I wanted to go over the pickup process on the day we went to get the RV. One of the reasons I went with Cruise America was that there was a location really close to my house. Their Newark, California location is about a 20-minute drive. So I had my son give me a ride over there, and I went to grab the unit. Arriving at the lot, it was kind of comforting to see all the RVs and staff there to assist. It just gave me a little bit of a comfort that I wasn't the only one doing it, and if I needed help, I would be able to get it. There was plenty of parking, and when we walked in, there was a digital screen there with all the different reservations that different folks had, including mine. Staff was really friendly and efficient. It kind of felt like a little bit like checking into a hotel or a rental car reservation, only there was no line or wait. So I was helped right away. Like I said, they were very friendly, and they walked me through the process in about 5 minutes, maybe a little bit longer, but it was pretty quick. And, it was sort of the normal, like you're renting a rental car in terms of filling out the paperwork, signing for a few acknowledgments, and then confirming some things about which unit I had and which options I had picked when I booked it online. There was no fee for having the dog with me on the trip, so they didn't charge for a pet fee, but they did tell me up front that if there was any damage to the vehicle from the dog, there might be an additional cleaning fee to take care of that. After I signed everything and we took care of all the paperwork, they walked me into a small room with a TV in it, and they had me watch a little kind of an instructional video. It's about 6-7 minutes long. The agent left the room when I did, but I highly recommend that when you're done watching the video, you ask the agent if there's a way to get the link to the video so you can watch it online as you need it while you have the unit, because it's certainly it's a good idea to have that video reference while you're on your trip. After the video, the agent walked me out to our specific unit. We did a physical inspection on it. We passed by the personal kits and kitchen kits, and we grabbed one of each as I had reserved. And then she walked me through the external walk around of the entire vehicle, and she pointed out each relevant compartment and what it was for. That was super helpful. It reinforced the video I had watched, and I would say definitely if you're a new renter and uncomfortable or new to all of this, certainly take your time and ask questions of that staff person while they're in front of you and while you're standing there next to the vehicle with them. You don't want to. It's best to ask the questions now, even if you feel like you're belaboring the point, to make sure you understand as much as you can what you need to while you have them there. We did do a walkthrough of the internal compartments as well. She showed me around. Some of it's pretty intuitive, like the refrigerator and things like that. I would key on the control panel. The control panel is sort of like the central nervous system of the RV. It's really the operating system for a lot of functionality that might be foreign to new folks, but it definitely is really good that you fully understand how things work and are operated by the control panel. And I would again ask questions as you can. The unit was as described. It was as I saw it on the website. It was clean. I would say one issue with this particular unit, the smaller unit, is the external storage was a little bit tight. There is an external storage compartment, but it's a little bit limited. But I found the internal compartments and storage to be very good and very ample in terms of how much space you need and things you need. The overall walkthrough of the unit took about 10 minutes for me. I'd say it'd probably take a little bit longer for a newer person. But once we were done with that, she handed me the keys and off we went. Regarding the bathroom is pretty small out of necessity of the 21-foot unit I had, but it was like a mighty bathroom. It had everything you needed in it, from obviously a toilet and a shower. It had a vanity and a mirror with storage behind it, which was very helpful. It was a very efficient and effective bathroom. We had no problems utilizing it the whole time. The water pressure on the shower was really good actually, and the toilet worked just fine. Because it's so small, the shower is actually almost on top of the toilet, so it's all sort of one space. I did peek into one of the larger units, while I was on the lot, noticed that the bathroom was a little bit bigger and those compartments were separate. But I don't think that was that big of a deal. But some people might want the larger shower, which maybe vouches for getting the larger unit instead of the smaller one. The outside of the RV is where all the utility compartments are. I did a walkthrough with the staff member at the beginning, and there's really 4 or 5 things you really need to understand. And this unit was pretty straightforward. It's pretty standard for what I've seen on other RVs. It really is the city water connection, which is really, as I think anyone without a walkthrough could even know how to hook up the hose they provide you, which was new, and it was even in the box, but it's a standard hose. You're just hooking up to both the outside compartment on the unit and then to the city water that a campground would provide you if you wanted to get access to the city water. The unit does have a water tank on it. It came full. They told me that when I picked the unit up, and the unit has its own water pump and water heater on board. You don't really have to mess with the water pump or heater in terms of like those actual components of the RV. The control panel on the inside of the vehicle is where you'll turn those on and off. It's pretty intuitive how the water works on the unit, but make sure you ask the questions up front so you understand it. But I think on the road, most people will have no problem. And the Cruise America RV was, like I said, a brand new hose. The water tank was full. The controls on the control panel to operate the water systems on this unit are pretty straightforward. The disposal situation, the black water and gray water, again, got a walkthrough of that. You can see pretty intuitively how those things work. It's a little intimidating the first time you do one of these hookups at a campground. The unit comes with the tanks empty. I think you can prepay the fee. I didn't choose to prepay the disposal fee, which you can do. I think it's $39 to bring the unit back, and they'll take care of the disposal of the black water and the gray water. You can bring it back unprepaid and not emptied out if you get into a bind. And I think it's a slightly more expensive fee. I think it's $59 to have them dispose of the tanks. On the control panel, there's a monitor for how your water pump tank is. There's also monitors for gray water and black water in terms of how full or empty those tanks are. So depending on how long your trip is, you keep an eye on those, on the black water and the gray water in particular. If you're getting full and you're on a longer trip and you're not staying at a campsite where you can empty them out yourselves, you can go to campsites, I think, or you can find a dump site probably online. But hooking up the hoses and all of that, it's probably the scariest part of being a first-time RVer. I had a few issues up the first few times. You want to make sure you understand how those things work up front. But this unit it has a storage compartment for the hose itself. I did run into an issue with the campsite I booked. The pad that the campsite was sitting on, and where the disposal and the water hookups and the electricity hookups that the campground provides were very much towards the back of the pad. And so on this RV unit, where the other side of those connections was more to the middle of the unit. So I actually had to back the unit off the pad and to be able to connect the hose and the water and stuff. So I think that's one thing. Just make sure you get a campsite that doesn't have that problem. It's a tricky thing to ask about, but I think the smaller unit might have also contributed to that, because I think the hose isn't quite as long on this unit. I'm not sure about that. There's a storage compartment as well that is a little bit undersized for this on this particular unit. I noticed on some of the other units, the larger 25 and 30 foot units seem to be a more decent and more storage compartment space. So I think depending on how many people are on your trip with you, I would recommend making sure you understand that how much you bring along with you, how many people are with you or dogs. That external storage can come into play, and it might be a reason to go with a slightly larger unit. Internal storage. Inside the unit, especially for a small unit like this one was, I do think the amount of space inside for storing away your clothes and the dishes, maybe if you bought the kitchen kit or you brought your own cookware, there seemed to be ample storage on the inside for storing all of those things. The refrigerator, it did not have a freezer. I think the larger units come with a freezer fridge unit, but the fridge itself for a small unit was pretty nice size, and I was able to get most of the things that my family and I were going to bring along with us on this trip in that refrigerator, and store dry goods and things like that. Plenty of room to store it away for the length of trip, which was for us was a 2 or 3 day trip. The front cab of the unit, it really was just a Ford truck. I mean, when you're sitting in the driver's seat, when you're sitting in the passenger seat of the front, it pretty much just felt like driving a larger truck. The sight lines were pretty good. I didn't really have any blind spots. With many RVs, there's not a rear view mirror because you obviously can't see behind you through the mirror. There's a cab behind you. That takes a little getting used to, but side mirrors were sufficient. They were quite large actually, and I got used to it pretty quickly in terms of driving with no center rear view mirror. It does drive like a truck. It's a slightly, it's got some weight on it with the extra weight you're carrying. So there is a little bit of drifting that can go, you get pushed by side crosswinds, but not too bad in this unit. I didn't feel it was difficult to drive at all. Regarding the dog and bringing a dog on an RV trip, and our situation, I think because the unit was a bit smaller and the dog was a puppy, with a little bit of an anxious puppy, it was challenging to get her to calm down. It took several hours to get her comfortable in the RV. She did get comfortable, but it took a little while. She spent a lot of time in the passenger seat up front in the cab, and on the floor. This unit didn't have extra space such that she had her own really space. So if any of us was trying to move through the RV, she would be laying in the middle of the walking area, and it got a little cramped having a dog as an extra passenger. So I would definitely reconsider bringing the dog along or getting a bigger unit and accommodating the dog. But it was fun for her in the end. We spent a lot of time taking her for walks around the RV and just spending time outside, which is kind of the point often when you're doing RV trips, is to kind of get out and see things. So living in the unit with my kiddos, 15 and 17-year-old, and a 1-year-old puppy, and the puppy's about 60 pounds. I chose the 21-foot unit, and in retrospect, that was probably not the right choice for my situation. If I did it again, I would probably go with the 25-foot unit. The 21-foot unit was a little bit tight for that many folks or creatures. We had a good time, but living in it for a few days was a little tight for all of us to coexist in it. The main issue I would say is the external storage situation. We didn't have enough room for certain things we wanted to bring on the trip, which, things like a grill were tricky. Not a big grill, but you're never going to bring a big grill. But if your campground doesn't provide a grill and you had a small unit like this, you would have a hard time cooking outside. I think cooking in the unit was fine. The kitchen was sufficient, and it was, it's obviously not a large grill top, but it came with a microwave, and the refrigerator, it was ample storage, and there was ample dry goods storage. So cooking in it was actually perfectly fine. You don't want the other creatures in the unit while you're trying to cook so much, because if they're trying to move around, that's going to be a little tricky. But as long as it's really one or two people trying to do the cooking, the back table in the unit where the seating area was perfectly sufficient for the three of us to sit around and have the meals that we did have in the unit. But yeah, the cooking situation was perfectly fine. Sleeping was also really good. The back table converts to a bed, well, easily actually. And you're literally just pulling the tabletop off and replacing it with an extra cushion they provide. That bed unit was sufficient that myself and the dog were able to sleep on it, and it was pretty comfortable. It wasn't a tight squeeze for the two of us. The other sleeping area for this unit was above the driver. It's kind of a loft situation, which is normal for RVs. Also easy to assemble. And I think it was slightly bigger up there. My two teenage kids slept up there. Two teenage children sleeping in proximity is tricky. In this case, they seemed to do just fine. There was enough space where they weren't even crowded really with each other. If you're going to leverage the personal kits that you can buy from Cruise America, you probably want to get two of those if you're going to have more than obviously one sleeping arrangement, because each one only comes with a single sheet, a single pillow, and a single comforter. So you'll probably want to get two of those if you're going to be using both compartments for sleeping. But sleeping was fine in this unit. The other thing I would say about the smaller unit, I think the smaller the unit, the more important the campsite you have and you reserve is if you're going to get a campsite, because you want that external space a little bit more. And in my case, I didn't pick a great campground, and it wasn't super family friendly, I'll say that. You definitely wanted to get out of the RV a little bit more with as many creatures as I had in the car or in the RV, but the campground itself wasn't super great. So I do a lot of research on your campground to make sure. I mean, this is probably true in any RV rental situation. If you're going to go to a campsite, make sure that you pick a good one that maybe you call ahead and ask some questions about what are the amenities they have there. And then otherwise, I think the unit was perfectly fine, but I probably would pick the larger unit with the number of my two kids and the dog. So while we were on the road and actually driving the unit, my kiddos would spend time, they sort of float around the RV. They spent some time in the back and buckled up. But they would occasionally, one of them would go up to the top loft above. They would spend some time on their devices, as teenagers do. I don't think the RV had Wi-Fi on it. That didn't ever come up, and I never really cared because my kids can run hotspots or just have cellular connectivity as they need it. They would float around the RV. It didn't feel tight while we were driving. And when we were having sort of downtime, parked at a campsite, things like that, there were times where it would get tight, but usually if that happened, one of them would just, go outside and walk around, spend time at the campground. We did spend some time at the beach. So, we were out doing things. We spent some time in the RV all together. We played some board games. We had a little campfire at one point. The RV, if your family would not have a place to go, and if you're not in a location that is attractive to be out and about, then I could see getting a little bit cramped with each other, and that wouldn't be ideal to spend all of your time with this many folks in this small of an RV. Bigger RV probably would be fine. The higher percentage of your time can be spent inside without getting on top of each other. But we did just fine, and we had enough to do out and about. The return process was quite easy, actually. There's an obvious place where when you drive back to return an RV return lane. Pulled into a spot. Someone met me, one of the staff met me pretty much right away as soon as I got out of the vehicle. They made sure I got all my stuff out of the RV, which I had already emptied out at the house. And they, asked me a few questions. I think they did a quick check of, the mileage and of, just to look through it to make sure there was no damage and no lack of cleanliness in my return. I think responsibilities are, you should obviously get all your possessions out, but you should also generally do the dishes, clean some things up, wipe down the counters, and that, you don't want to leave it dirty. They provided you as part of the kitchen kit, I believe, they provided you a broom, so sweep it out, do that sort of thing. I did all of those things, and there was no, they did not charge me any additional cleaning fees for the dog or for anything else. But I actually got my security deposit. There's a $500 security deposit. I got that back, I think, within a day or two. It was a very good experience. end to end in terms of the staff and the pickup and drop off and the support of having them there. I did empty the tanks at the campsite, so there was no fee for that for me, but that's a reminder that you want to make sure that that's either prepaid up front, you know it, or maybe take care of it yourself. So my final assessment of this experience renting through Cruise America and with the 21-foot compact unit was overall pretty good. I gave it an 8.7 out of 10. I'd say overall they scored really well on the service and the staff. The pickup and drop off was very easy to do, and pricing was transparent. The booking process was pretty straightforward. The value was, I felt, fair. The areas I would say maybe not so great was just the really based on the size of the unit and the crew I had with me, my kids and my dog. In retrospect, I'd probably pick a slightly bigger unit, which probably would have made some of these some of the issues that we had around the tightness of the cabin, the bathroom. Sleeping was pretty good, but it was still a little bit tight. So I think overall they did really well. It was a fun experience. I had a good time. I would definitely rent from Cruise America again, just out of simplicity and convenience. Certainly had all of that. If I could do anything different, again, I've said it a lot, I think just going with a bigger unit, maybe not bring my dog this time. And it was a good experience overall. I hope this video was helpful for you and helpful on your choices in the future on choosing to do an RV trip. Thanks a lot.